Inheritance Problem Solving Level 1. Here is a problem statement. A bank offers its customers the following account types. The savings account earns interest every month on the minimum balance for the month. The checking account has no interest, gives a small number of free transactions per month, and charges a transaction fee for each additional transaction. Extend the account class to provide the two types of accounts. Override the methods whose implementation should change. Provide methods for charging transaction fee and adding interest. Provide a test class to create and test the two types of accounts. This is an interesting exercise. Let's discuss the solution. It is clear that we need to design an inheritance hierarchy for the bank account types. There will be an account class at the root of the hierarchy. The two types of account mean two subclasses of the account class. Let us determine the behavior of these classes. All bank accounts should have a constructor that accepts an account number. They should also have a method to set the initial balance and a method to get the current balance. They also support the deposit and withdraw methods, although the details of implementation will differ. The checking account should have a method to charge the transaction fees. The savings account should have a method to add interest. The subclasses inherit all methods from the superclass, but their implementations may be overridden to match the specific requirements of the subclasses. Also, subclasses can introduce additional methods. Let's implement the inheritance hierarchy of bank account classes. We have defined a class account. It has a constructor that accepts account number. There is also a method to set account number and get account number. We have defined methods to deposit, withdraw, and get current balance. Now let's look at the savings account class. It extends from the account class. Since the account class has a constructor, the savings account class should also define a constructor that accepts the account number. It should call the constructor of the superclass by using super keyword. Since the savings account gives interest on the minimum balance for a month, the minimum balance should be recorded for every month. As each withdrawal reduces the balance, whenever a withdrawal happens, the minimum balance will be equal to the current balance. We have introduced a variable for saving the minimum balance. Thus, withdrawal method is overridden to perform this logic. As rest of the withdrawal logic remains the same, we can call the superclass withdrawal method as well. There is no special requirement for the deposit and savings account, so we do not need to override deposit. We have introduced a new method for calculating interest on the minimum balance. After calculating interest, it is deposited to the account by calling the deposit method. Now let's see the checking account. This also extends the account class. It defines a constructor that accepts an account number and calls superclass constructor. A requirement of checking account is that gives a small number of free transactions per month and charges a transaction fee for each additional transaction. That means we need to keep track of transactions happening on the account. We have defined a variable for saving the transaction count. We should override the deposit method and increment transaction count for every deposit. We should also override withdraw method and increment transaction count for every withdrawal. We have introduced a method that calculates if the transaction count has incremented the number of free transactions. Free transactions has been defined as a constant and given a value. If the transaction count exceeds the free transactions, we will charge a fee on the extra transactions. The fees will be deducted from the account by calling super.withdraw. After levying the fees, we should reset the transaction count to 0. Let us test the account hierarchy. In test class, we create an object of savings account, set the initial balance, and withdraw some amount. We also test the add interest method. Then we create object of checking account, set initial balance, and deposit an amount. We are also testing the charge transaction fees method. Thus, we have successfully designed and implemented the bank account class hierarchy. What we learned: design and implementation of bank account class hierarchy.